So welcome everyone. This is the senior workshop, interviewing techniques to land that great job. So I am recording this workshop, and we're going to leave time at the end for questions. I ask that you get a paper and a pen or pencil because you are going to want to take notes for this. Again, this workshop will be recorded and Dr. Mayers will be putting it on Canvas, hopefully by the end of the week. So I'm going to get started and share my screen to bring up the PowerPoint. If you don't see it, please let me know, because I want to make sure everybody sees it, okay? All right, so let's start the PowerPoint from the beginning. Come on, work for me. There we go. Okay, all right, so here we go. So again, this is interviewing techniques that throughout the years, I have been to many workshops and many training sessions and how to help our students. I've attended Career Center workshops to gather this information for you. So, all right. So first thing, when you're going through an interview, acknowledge your weaknesses. They're always going to ask you, what are your weaknesses? Be prepared for that question. What are your weaknesses? So the interviewer is likely going to ask you. So an answer could be identify weakness. Don't say I don't have any, because that's impossible. But you could say something, to the effect, it could be something that has nothing to do with the job. So for example, public speaking. So you could say something like, I'm still having challenges in public speaking. It's something I am working on. I practice with my family and my friends, or maybe in, maybe a small group, and I'll try my public speaking skills. I read up on information about public speaking and try to maybe record myself at home and then watch it to see if there's any changes I can make to improve my public speaking. There you go. That's it. It doesn't necessarily have to be addressed to that job specifically, but it could be you don't want to say, well, no, I'm always running late. I need to do better with my time. You don't ever want to say that, because you just said you're always running late, which means you'll probably be late for work. You don't want to do that. So think about a weakness that you do have that you may want to bring up should they ask you that question. And I've sat on many, too many to talk about hiring committees, and that question is always asked by someone. What are your weaknesses and what are your strengths? So in the same token, think about what your strengths are and how you would like to address those as well. You want to smile. Many people try to stay serious during an interview. You don't want to do that. You definitely want to smile. You don't want to be so cheesy that your face cracks, but you want to make sure that you do have a pleasant smile. If at all possible, make sure you brush your teeth just before you go into the interview, because if you had lunch, you had coffee, a lot of times our teeth will stain or have food particles. You don't want that. So you definitely want to make sure that you take, toothpaste and toothbrush with you, and mouthwash or some kind of mint that you can use before you go into your interview. So not only do you have a nice smile, but you also have fresh breath. So please make sure that people aren't drawn to that spinach that's stuck in your tooth and can't hear what you're saying in the interview. Okay. Prepare for questions others don't ask. These questions are meant to see if you can act on your feet or make split decisions in specific situations. For example, have you ever had a boss from hell? Someone may ask you that. Have you ever had a boss from hell, and how did you handle it? Or another question may be, looking at your resume, it seems like you were at a job for 2 years and you moved to another job. You were there for 1.5 years, and now you're applying to this one. What is it about those jobs that you didn't stay long-term for that made you want to seek other employment? You better be ready to answer that. It can't be, I can't stand my boss. She was this, he was that. He was a male chauvinist. She was a you-know-what. Nope, can't say that. You could say, there were a lot of challenges that you experienced at that job, and you try to bring change to the office, but because it didn't work, you just found that you didn't fit in the culture of that current employment, There you go. That's it. You answer the question. Okay. Keep your cool when things go south. Employers may intentionally allow this to happen to see if you will respond appropriately and not fall apart. For example, the interviewer may ask you, how do you feel about working in an all-male environment? A boys' club. For a female, they may say, how do you feel like, or for a male or female, they will ask, how do you feel working in an all-female office, a drama shop, right? Which is what they call it, a boys' club or drama shop. You have to be able to answer that. And so sometimes especially if you have had bad experiences, you can say, I can hold my own. I don't have a problem with working in an all male environment or an all female environment. I feel that I can hold my own, and I can also be a team player. So I can go either way. I'm good with that. That's it. Don't go overboard. Don't not answer the question and just go around, these things happen. I can handle it. I'm good. No, no, no. You want to answer specifically about why you are the best person for that position and how you will handle a boys club or a drama shop. Again, get to know the interviewer before the interview. So always ask when they call you to schedule an interview, always ask, who's going to interview me? May I have their name? Because this way you're going to put a name to a face. And not only that, look what it says here. Look up the person. So you have something to talk about that will make that connection. For example, let's say that they're saying, oh, you're going to interview with Dr. Mayers at the EOF office. Okay, you have time to Google Dr. Mayers and find out she just got her doctorate, right? Or find out she's been with EOF for almost 10 years. Now you have something to talk about. And pick a couple of questions so that as soon as the interviewer comes in, they're going to say, hey, how are you? We're going to start this interview. I'm going to introduce everybody. How are you feeling? Do you have any questions before we get started? And you can say, oh, no. Thank you so much. But by the way, Dr. Mears, congratulations. You just got your doctorate. That it must be an accomplishment. How was that for you? There you go. You just made a connection with the person who's interviewing you. And that goes a long way because that person knows that you just, you looked into them and you looked into the company. It's like, oh, this person's really interested in us, that they will go the extra mile. So you always want to find out who's interviewing you. Is there a panel? And who are the people on the panel? And then you want to go back and Google these individuals, Google the site to the company or the institution to see if there's anything that you can bring up as a conversation. So alumni connection to an organization. Any of these, you may see that they are connected to a fraternity, a sorority, alumni at, let's say, Temple or Rutgers, and that could be a way for you to bring in some conversation before you get started. Now, don't be a stalker where you want to know this person's married. Definitely want to say, hey, you just got married. Congratulations. You don't want to do that because they'll say, well, how do you know I got married? Now you're being a stalker. You want to keep it professional, okay? Emphasize your cultural fit. Do your beliefs align with the company? You don't want to seem overqualified, but be confident that you will fit right in. You must show that you can be part of the team. So you want to make sure that you look into don't just try to get a job just to get a job, because you'll end up getting a job that you absolutely hate and end up quitting anyway. And you don't want to show that on your resume that you can't seem to stay at a job. You want to make sure that you look into the company. Are you a cultural fit? How many people of color do they have in this company, if that matters to you? How many scholarships or how much commitment do they have to their local community? Do they have philanthropic, opportunities? Do they do internships for students? Think about and look into the culture of the company and see if you fit into that culture. And if you do, great, apply for it. But if you don't, I'm telling you, don't do it, because you're going to find that you're going to be very, very disappointed and not happy to be there, which is not good for you or the company. Use enthusiastic vocabulary. For example, instead of saying it's my job, you want to say it's my career. Use language that shows teamwork. Issues are not problems, they are challenges. So, have you ever experienced any problems at your previous institution? Well, yes, some of the challenges that we experienced were so-and-so. So you don't want to refer to it as problems, you want to refer to it as challenges. You don't want to say it's my job, because you're not looking for a job, you're looking for a career. So you want to start switching that you're talking and the choices of your vocabulary to something that's more productive, and always keep the words professional. Finish strong. There will always be a time at the end of the interview when you will be asked if you have any questions. Please make sure that you have questions. You have to come up with at least 2 or 3 questions at the end. They're always going to ask you, do you have any questions for us? Well, absolutely, I do. Thank you so much for asking. And then here you go. There's some questions we put for you here. Could you describe the culture in the office? Is there a flexible work schedule? Does the company value a family environment? You can ask, is the company involved in philanthropic or volunteer opportunities? As a company, as an institution, does this company or this institution get involved in community activities or in community work? Things like that. You can also ask questions like, how fast are you looking to hire for this position? When should I look to hear from you? Those are questions you can ask, because you don't want to leave an interview and say, oh my God, how long are they going to take to answer me? No, ask the question. Could you let me know how long it'll be before I hear from you? When do you look to fill this position? Those kinds of questions. And then they'll go into, oh, okay, so we have a few more people to interview. So we're looking at least a month from now, we'll get in contact with you. Now you have a time frame, but you did ask a question. Always have 2 to 3 questions. The worst thing for an interview, when I've been in an interview, said, do you have any questions? Like, oh, no, I don't. I'm like, really? After all this conversation, there's not one question? Come up with 2 or 3 questions that you want to ask to show that you are interested not only in the position, but you're interested in the company or the institution. Now, thank the interviewer and show your enthusiasm. Don't just thank the interviewer, thank, with just thoughts. For example, what you definitely want to do is say things like, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with me. I know you're busy with, being vice president of this company. I know you're busy with, being the vice chancellor, and you have so many things to do throughout the day. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me for this interview. You definitely want to make it personable like that with enthusiasm. You can say, thank you for not laughing about the ridiculous goals I told you about. If there was a chuckle that happened during the interview, you may want to say that. Thank you so much for not laughing, at my nervousness during the interview. Thank you for taking the time to interview me. Or thank you for being the nicest interviewer I've ever had. If that's the case, if you had really tough interviewers in the past, so, I was very apprehensive. I've had, tough interviewers in the past. Thank you so much for easing my anxiety, because this interview I find went very well. There you go. You want to make it personable to the interviewer when you thank them. Excuse me. Then you want to follow up. This is so critical. And I've always been very surprised, pleasantly surprised when I've had this happen to me, when I've sat on interviewing committees. After you leave the interview, email a thank you note within an hour to all the participants in the interview. This is why it's important when you first start an interview, the interviewer will say, let me introduce you to the rest of the panel who are here to interview you. Write down everybody's name. And if you don't catch a name, say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Could you please give me your name again? Write that person's name. What you want to do is you want to send a thank you note to each person. Even if you've said, thank you so much for interviewing me, you want to send a thank you note, individual, and do not copy and paste the note, because sometimes people share it. I've gotten a note and I say, oh my God, this note was so sweet. And I said, look, Dr. Basson, this person sent me this note. You definitely want me to show it to Dr. Basson. She goes, oh, I got the same one. No, you definitely want to send each interviewer their own private and personal thank you note, because it could be something about that specific person to say, you really eased my anxiety when you asked me that question. So I'm so thankful, that you were part of the panel. Just make it personal. So as you're being interviewed and you have everybody's names down, write notes next to their names. Like, this person was nice. This person was a little tough. This person, didn't seem like they were there. You want to write little notes, because when you send back a note, a thank you note, you want to know who you're talking to. And if they did something that was special and nice, you want to mention that in their individual personal thank you email. So make sure that you do not leave the interview without getting everybody's names. And let me tell you, spell the names correctly. So, and you can always look them up in the company or the institution website afterwards if you don't know how to spell their names, because obviously they'll be there. You never want to send somebody a note without addressing them appropriately or misspelling their names. I've often thought it was very nice when I have gotten a thank you note from someone right after I interviewed them. And I was like, wow, that was nice that they took the time to do that. And you should always do it at, if not within an hour, because you're probably on your way home or something, but, at least within the first 24 hours, you want to send a thank you note. Then you want to follow up 3 days later, then a week later, and consistently until you have a solid yes or no about the job. Now, you follow up with whoever led the interview, not the whole team. Even if you knew somebody on the team, you do not follow. You follow up with the person who initially was the lead interviewer. So if you haven't heard from them in 3 days, say, hey, thank you so much for the interview the other day. I was wondering if you had made a decision or were close to making a decision about the final candidate. Could you please let me know at your earliest convenience? There you go. That's it. Quick email. And if you haven't heard anything back, then I would wait a week and then send another email and say, hi, I emailed last week. I was just wondering if you had decided on a candidate for this position. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm eager to get a response. Thank you so much. Have a great day. There you go. But you definitely, want to, now if they say, oh, we're going to, we'll let you know in a month, then you definitely don't want to send an email in 3 days or a week because they said they're going to let you know in a month. Now, if you, and this is why I'm saying that you have to take notes. If you have not heard in a month, then you want to send an email, say, hey, thank you so much for the interview the other day. I was wondering, it's been a month and I was wondering if we're close to making a decision about the position. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. And that's it. So this is why you want to always have a paper and pen with you, whether you're interviewing in person or virtually, because you want to write this stuff down. Okay. Guys, if you have any questions, I don't mind you stopping me along the way. All right. You want to keep in touch, and that because that adds more value, right? Every communication between you and the administrative assistant or the hiring manager adds value to your worth and character. You can certainly email and mention something great about the company or you just read. So for example, while you're waiting to hear from them, let's say you find out, oh, wow, Rutgers has a new vice chancellor. Wow, okay. And maybe it's for the same department that you just interviewed to. You can send that person who interviewed you, say, oh, I just read, in the paper, or I just heard on the news that you guys hired a new vice chancellor. Congratulations. Hopefully I'll look forward to being a part of that team and meeting that individual in the very near future. There you go. You always want to communicate with them to let them know, hey, I'm still here. I like the things that are going on, what I'm hearing in the news or in the paper or, reading on your website. I look forward to being part of the team. That lets them know that you're still thinking about them. Okay. Or you can provide ideas. So you may maybe come across an article or you come across a research about something that has to do with the company. You can send it right to that interview and say, hey, I just came across this article. I thought it would be great for your department. Thank you so much and have a great day. That's it. It shows that, wow, this person is still interested and this person took the time when they came across something to say, hey, this could work for you. Even if I'm not a part of your department, I think this will work for you. And, that shows that you're keeping in touch and you're interested. And then you learn to negotiate. So this is a catchy thing here. So high performers negotiate an offer, right? So a company will always have a range. So you can make between $60,000 and $80,000. They will always have a range. They're never going to have, you're going to make $80,000 a year. They're never going to do that. It's always going to be a range, right? So you always want to make sure that you go closest to the highest. So if the max is 80,000, don't ask for 80,000 because you're not going to get it. That also comes across like you're being greedy. You don't want that. So if it's 60 to 80,000, you always want to say, hey, I'm comfortable at 75,000. That's, you start negotiating because then they'll come down to like 78. Then you can go up to 76. And usually by that second try, you end up with confirming a salary. So you want to make sure that you don't go all the way to the top, but just below the top because they're negotiating down. That's the way that it works. It even works like that, even with unions. So you want to make sure that you're a good negotiator, but you also want to, because they'll say, well, why should we pay you $78,000 a year? That's where your resume comes in and say, well, if you notice on my resume, I've had extensive experience in supervision. I've supervised this many people, or I've had extensive experience in grant writing, and I've been able to bring grants into the previous employment that I was with. So I have experience in this. For those who may be in social work, I've had experience in placements where I've worked in the prison system. I've worked in juvenile detention centers. I've worked in, assisted living places. So I have extensive experience in social work. You want to sell yourself why you're worth that kind of money. But if you can't come up with that, don't ask for that money because they're not going to give it to you. Okay, because salary is actually based on experience. You have to sell yourself. This is why your resume is so important. And as a matter of fact, on this Thursday, we're doing a workshop for how to create that right resume, the awesome that sticks out. Your resume is the first thing they look at when they say, you know what, we're going to interview this person, or you know what, we don't want this person. So before you even get to the interview, your resume is what's going to count. And so on Thursday, I hope that you do come back on Thursday and attend the workshop that's going to be on Thursday during a free period about the resume. You can always, if you don't have time for that workshop, the Career Center does drop in resumes critique. you can always schedule with someone or drop in to see if someone can look at your resume to make sure that your resume, has that bang feel to it where someone's going to look at it and say, we must interview this person. Okay. So again, you have to negotiate your salaries, but you also have to remember that you're worth your experience. So you got to make sure that you have that. And you can also negotiate, hey, I can be an asset to this company because this is what I do. And based on my interview with the panel, this is an area where your company hopes to grow. You don't want to say this is an area where you're lacking, or you guys need me. Of course they need you, they want to interview you, but you want to say this is an area where I can bring some growth to the company. You can say something like that. Okay. You want to close the loop with people that you want to thank. So there might be someone who, I remember the person that told me about this job that I have now with EOF 30 years ago. He came to my desk, we're working in the same building. He said, look at this job, I think you should apply. And I was like, EOF counselor at Rutgers-Camden. I was like, that's where I graduated from. This was in 1992, something like that. Yeah, because it'll be 30 years I've been working here. And, after I got the job, I took him out to lunch. I was like, wow, I would have never, and of course, back then, one ads were actually in the paper. So he saw the paper and saw the interview, the one ad for Rutgers, and came to my desk and showed it to me. So after I got the job, I took him out to lunch and I thanked him for it. So whoever, let's say, said, hey, you should apply to this job, or write you a letter of recommendation or reference, or, you always want to turn around and thank those people because, they got you there. Whether you get the job or not, you always want to thank those people, because guess what? If the job doesn't work out and they think of something else, or something else comes across the desk, like, hey, I know that job didn't work out, but look, these people are hiring, you want to apply. So you definitely always want to thank people, whether you want to take them out for coffee or lunch, or send them a nice thank you note. Say, thank you so much for thinking of me. I did apply to that position. So, keep your fingers crossed. I look forward to hearing from them. Always, always, always thank the people that got you to the table for the interview. Never forget who they are. So again, it could be the person who referred you for the job. It could be the interviewer, right? Once you, let's say, got the job, you can, when you get there, you want to thank the person and say, hey, can I take you out for coffee? Just want to thank you for interviewing me. You just made me feel so comfortable. I'm so glad that I'm here. Take them out for coffee or something. Anyone that helped you to get to that point. Maybe the person who reviewed your resume, or maybe you have a mentor that's helping you write your letters of employment. The other thing too is you want to make sure that when you apply for a job, not only do you upload your resume, because they're going to ask you to do that, they may not require the letter, but you should. And I'll tell you why. The resume doesn't say everything about you, because resumes today, the style that is acceptable today is one page. A one page may not say everything about you. So that letter of intent will say what you want to say, because that's where you highlight what you can't highlight in your resume. So you want to make sure that you have that letter of intent, and which is called a cover letter, or and a resume. A lot of times when I sit on hiring committees and I'm going through resumes and I find a resume, I'm like, oh, this resume is pretty good. And then I look for the cover letter and there's none, I delete the resume. If you're not going to take the time to write a cover letter to sell yourself, then you're not worth us interviewing. So take the time to go through and commit and complete a cover letter. Your cover letter must address the job description that you're applying for and must address the qualifications on your resume. This is where you can do a cover letter that's like 2 pages or a page and a half, whereas you can't do that with your resume. So please, please, please make sure that you do a cover letter along with your resume, which means also that for every job that you apply to, the cover letter and the resume will change, because you have to make sure that that cover letter and that resume address the job description. I can't tell you how many times somebody put in a resume and a cover letter, and in the cover letter, it was the wrong job. I'm like, wait, that means that this person never even changed the letter. They just kept applying everywhere using the same letter, and it didn't even match the job that we were posting. So guess what? That got deleted. So if you're not going to take the time to make those changes, then I'm telling you, they're not going to look at your resume and your cover letter. Even if you're the best person for the job, they're not going to do that. Okay, other important items to consider. So you have to dress for success. We just had this workshop Wednesday of last week. So only 4 students show up, which I am very, very upset about. Only 4 juniors show up to that workshop. We did run this workshop last year for the seniors. So hopefully you did attend. It wasn't recorded because we just did it in person. So if you're interested in getting that information, I'm gonna, in the next slide, I'm giving instructions. But anyway, you wanna dress for success. This is not a fashion show, of course, but first impressions always count. So you wanna dress for the job you want, not the job that you have. That is always one thing that we talk about success. Dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. So if you wanna be the boss, you dress like a boss when you go for the interview. Always dress for success, but please make sure it is not a fashion show. If you want to look at the workshop for Dress for Success, we talked about what jewelry should be worn, whether you should do a London knot, a double knot. Mr. Jones went over some of that information. What are the colors that you should wear? Should you wear perfume? If you wear religious garments on a regular basis, you should wear them for an interview. We talked about these things. How should you dress for the interview? Resumes should be reviewed and printed on linen paper. They only cost a few pennies over at Staples. Please do not print your resume on regular paper because the regular paper is too cheap. You want it on nice linen paper. It's usually like an off-white color, almost as the color of the back of this PowerPoint, back screen of the PowerPoint. You want a nice linen off-white paper, like a cream color. Again, it's only a few pennies at Staples. So please make sure you print your resume. Take your resume with you. Do not pull it out of your pocketbook. Make sure you have like a portfolio or some kind of folder. Put it in there nice and neat, and make sure that you bring enough. So initially, when you're scheduled for the interview, you want to ask how many people are interviewing me and can I have their names? Because if you got 10 people interviewing you, make sure that you bring 10 resumes with you. Because guess what? They may not have it there. Somebody may say, oh, I forgot the resume. You can say, oh, I have it right here. I have an extra copy for you. You can go ahead and pull it out of your portfolio. So you want to make sure that you print your resume on nice linen paper and bring plenty of copies with you. Another thing, you want to purchase business cards that are neutral and up to date. Never, you might see somebody, let's say in the campus center, and they say, oh, give me a call because I think I have a job I want to tell you about. Do not tear a piece of paper out of your notebook and write your name and number on it. That is the most unprofessional thing any senior can do. You want to print, what is it, a Vistaprint? They sell, I think it's 100 cards for $10, for $9.99. You want to put your full name with your credentials from your graduation credentials, an address, and a phone number. That's it. Don't have any religious quotes in there. If you want a leadership type of quote, you can put that on there. You can make, if you want to do a nice flower on there, or if you just want to do just like a straight line, make it look very professional. Always purchase business cards with your name, phone number, and email. You don't need any of your social media information. Just something somebody says, hey, can I get your number? Pull out the card. Oh, sure, here you go. And have a nice card holder. Sometimes they have them like at TJ Maxx for like $5. Go to these places, buy these inexpensive items that you're going to need that will make you look more and more professional. Always have business cards with your information on it. Keep a separate paper with references ready in your portfolio when you go for the interviews. Make sure it's also on linen paper, and your contact, it should have all your references. Now, you also want to make sure you tell your contacts or your references, say, hey, I'm getting ready to go to an interview, and you said I could use you as a reference. So just to give you a heads up, they might be calling you. So you want to make sure that you have that separate, because a lot of times if they really, really like you at an interview, before you leave, they'll say, hey, can we have a list of your references? You want to make sure you pull that out. Make as many copies of your reference page as you do your resume, because they all may want it. Only one person will usually be asked to check your references. And believe me, a lot of people do it. So don't think that people are not going to check your references. You want to make sure your references are good, reliable people that are going to answer their phone. It's not going to be voicemail is full or email gets returned. You want to make sure it's reliable people who are going to respond when they're contacted about you. Okay. Be flexible on a start date. So a lot of times places will say, oh, we're looking to hire for the first of the year and it's September. You're like, man, I want a job now. You can still accept the position because that means somebody's on their way out and they're trying to get somebody in for the new year. Nothing wrong with accepting that job and then maybe doing something temporarily or picking up another job along the way that you'll be like, you know what, I think I'm gonna stay here instead and not take that other job. So don't think that if they say, well, we're looking to hire in 3 months, Be flexible with that, because you don't know if you won't find anything else, before then, or you might find something before then that's better, and you have time to say to them, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I have secured other employment. So thank you so much, but I will not be joining your company. You have plenty of time to do that. Okay. So be flexible with the start date. Now, some places will say, oh, we want you to start immediately. Can you do that? If you're already working at a job, you do not want to say, yes, I can, because you should always give another job 2 weeks notice. It is unfair for that other place for you to say, oh, sorry, I got a new job. I quit. I start Monday. You never want to do that. And guess why? What if the job that you're at in the future has a position that you really, really want to apply for, but they remember, you know what? He or she quit on us, didn't even give us 2 weeks notice to go find another job. And now he trying to come back? Nope, you will not get rehired. So you want to make sure that you at least say, I have to give my current employment 2 weeks notice. Most jobs will respect that. I have not heard a job yet that will say, oh, no, we want you right now, because they understand business. So you definitely want to say, I at least have to give my employment 2 weeks notice. So I cannot start less than 2 weeks from now. They'll understand that. Make it at the utmost importance to know who the staff is prior to your start date. This may require a stop and meet the staff prior to starting your new position. So many of you, of course, know Mr. Terrence Jones. So Mr. Jones came to us, a couple of years ago. What impressed me so much about Mr. Jones after the interview was that he actually asked Dr. Basong if she could schedule a time where he could come in and meet the staff before he started his position. And that was impressive. I was like, what? He trying to meet us? Yeah, he gonna meet us on the first day? No, actually, he wanted to come in and he wanted to get to meet everybody without interrupting anybody's job. So Dr. Basong, I think it was like a 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so Dr. Basong said, we'll do like some cookies and coffee or something. He wants to come meet everybody. But he also brought stuff with him. Like I think he brought cupcakes or something from his nearby bakery. Yeah, it was cupcakes. And so it was like a meet and greet coffee break at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But he asked for that. And I thought that was very impressive of Mr. Jones. I was like, wow, Mr. Jones, you're already starting on the right track. And he got a chance to meet, and he actually walked around all of our offices, came in and said, oh, so, he, of course, he called me Ms. Waters, and I'm so much older than him. I'm like, let me stop you right there. Please do not call me Ms. Waters. I'm too old for that. We're colleagues. Call me Caroline. And then we went from there. He's like, how long have you been here? And this and that. He's like, oh, I could learn from you. What is your biggest challenge? So he started, I almost felt like I was being interviewed. But it was great that he did that because he got a chance to kind of know everybody. He found out there were 4 departments here, where everybody's situated. He found out what his office was going to be. So, Dr. Basong showed him his office. So he kind of knew, okay, can I bring this? Can I bring that, Dr. Basong? And so, when he came and he set up his office, as you all know, his office is immaculate. He came and set up his office, but he got a chance to do this way before he started. That was a great idea. I was like, man, I should have thought about that when I first started. But definitely something to think about, that you want to do some kind of stop, greet and meet, or meet and greet with the staff before your start date. So that way, when you first come in on the first date, it's not like you're coming into a bunch of strangers. So it's a really great idea. And of course, you will set that up with whoever your immediate supervisor will be once you get the position. And always try to do like an afternoon so it doesn't interrupt with anyone's job. Be a team player from day one. There is no I in team. I mean, you've probably heard that before, but believe me when I tell you this. I've been here 30 years. There is no I in team. Every person that has come through the doors of EOF that I've either worked with, has worked in this office, or has been responsible for working with our students, there was always an I look at me and what I can do, is no longer here, because there is no I in team. We are a team. I've been here 30 years, and Mr. Jones and Ms. Rubright have been here way less than me, but guess what? I do not have seniority over them. We are all the same. I learn from them, they learn from me. We're all the same. We are one team of counselors. So don't ever think that you're bigger and higher than anyone, but at the same time, just because someone has been here forever, don't think that you can't be in that person's level. You are. That's why you got hired. You fit the team. So you are part of that team. So don't feel insecure about that. Show up early and leave late. The worst thing, and I know that's Dr. Basong's pet peeve, is people who come to work just on time and are looking at that clock. When 5 o'clock hits, you could hear the car screeching, the tires screeching. No, always, 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 when you start a new position, show up early. The old saying, I don't know, my parents used to say, if you're on time, you're late. You do not show up. If you start at 8:30, you do not show up at your job at 8:30. You need to show up at your job around 8:15, 8:20, Definitely never after 8:30. You want to show up early and you want to leave late. Nothing wrong with, you know what, I'm gonna stay till like 5:15 today. I get off at 5. I'm gonna stay till 5:15 today, or I need to get my notes done. I'm just gonna finish my notes and then I'll leave. Whether people are here or not, guess what? Dr. Basong always knows nothing gets past her. She always knows who's here early and who's here late. That's a good way to start at a new job, to show up early and leave late. Doesn't mean you have to do it every day, but be willing that if something has to get done and it's 5 minutes to the time that you leave and it needs to get done, you can tell your boss, I got it, no problem. I'll get it done before I leave, even if it means you'll be here a half hour, because that goes a long way. That shows that you're a team player. And when it's time for, for positions, for upgrades, for you to go up the ladder, they'll be like, you know what? We can certainly think of her because she's always on time, or she's always here early, and she leaves late. She's never given us bucking up against us. She's never telling us she can't do something or he can't do something. And that's how you get promotions. Do not complain. Help to bring necessary change. Do not complain. Don't complain about anybody because you don't know who in the office is cool with somebody. Don't complain about anybody across from another department, because what if they're related? You never, never, never complain out. If you're concerned about something like, this person, is not sharing the job load, the workload. I find like I'm, doing more work than that person. And for some reason, you have a supervisor. This is what you go talk to your supervisor about. Do not gossip or complain about it to anybody else in the office. You'll deal directly with your supervisor, okay? And then you need, because you don't know what people are going through. So you may, be like, well, maybe if this person, maybe they're so busy that they can't get their work done. So you can talk to your supervisor. Well, how, is there a way that we can all share the load so it's not just falling one person? If this person's got some personal stuff going on we don't know about, I don't need to know about it, but if I can help and lighten up their load, I don't mind doing that. But can we have a meeting about it? That's the way to deal with, she darn lazy and she's not getting her work done and it's falling on me. You definitely want to say it that way. Or he thinks that he's it and he's walking around like he's the boss. You definitely want to say that. But that could be the case, but you don't want to say it that way, okay? You want to bring it like, how can we, because there's no I in team, how can we bring resolution to this problem that we're having in the office? Okay, that's the way to do it. Now, because of the pandemic, interviews may be virtual. Last semester, I believe, was when we did, yes, last semester, I believe we did the mock interviews for the seniors. We didn't have that many of you show up for that or sign up for that, but the interviews were done, I'm sorry, I should have silenced my phone. The interview was done virtually. And we wanted students to get used to being in a virtual environment, virtual interview. And, we said, make sure you dress for success, make sure that you're dressing up, because you definitely dress for a virtual interview the way you would an in-person interview. Nowadays we're all getting dressed from the waist up, right? We don't need to get dressed from the waist down, but you still need to dress like if you were in an in-person interview. So I think the best interview that came across was one of the young ladies. I don't know if you're here now. She had the really nice pearl earrings, just a little pearl. Her hair was pulled back well. She had her makeup was perfect. She had on a white button-down shirt. It was perfect. She spoke clearly. So thinking about where you are right now at home, if you have to do a virtual interview, because I'm telling you, a lot of places are doing virtual interviews. They're not doing in person. You must make sure that you're set up. Some of the things that even when we're doing staff meetings at EOF and we're virtual, I may see, Ms. Rubright's, oh my God, stop calling me. Ms. Rubright's cat go across her desk. We're like, oh, Weenie, how you doing? Or my cat will come next to me and I'll show her, or Dr. Mayers has a dog and a cat, and you definitely want to make sure that if you have pets, you put those pets in another room to ensure that the dog is not barking, the cat is not jumping on your lap or going across your screen. You want to make sure that you put the pets away. You want to be in a room where, like, my background it could be appropriate as long as it's not too much. You could do a natural wall. You don't want to do too much because it may look like you're too relaxed. Okay. You want to make sure that you're wearing the appropriate jewelry, the appropriate amount of makeup. Men, make sure that you're tied. Just because you're doing a virtual interview doesn't mean you don't wear a tie. Of course you wear a tie to an interview. Make sure that your tie is tied around. Make sure you wear your suit jacket. Women, you can wear a cardigan. You can wear a dress, a small necklace. make sure that you do it as if you were in person, okay? Turn off your phones, just like a regular interview. Like, of course, I just messed up because my phone went off. Silence your phones. Put your phone in another room if you have to, so you're not looking at your phone in case a notification is coming through and you're interviewing, you're like looking at your phone and the person's like, oh, what are you, I'm talking to you, and you're like looking at your phone. No, put the phone away. Put anything else away. Silence your house phone, whatever, okay? Make sure that you are appropriate on the screen, you're dressed appropriate, your background is appropriate, you don't want anything hanging and this and that. No, make sure it's all appropriate. Tell your family not to call you. Tell your kids not to come into the room. Make sure that you've eaten. You're not drinking coffee while you're doing the interview. Make sure that it's as if you were doing it in person, okay? Please, 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 because I've done virtual interviews and some people have really, like, they were not good at all. But the one senior that did it last semester, oh my God, it was so perfect. I had to tell her, you did I even told her counselor, perfect interview. Perfect interview. Okay, so review previous workshops on the EOF YouTube page. Like, we've done a lot of our workshops that we have done. I think Dress for Success is also on the YouTube page, because I think last year, I think we ran it last year and it was virtually, that's what it was. And then if you want to get the PowerPoint for the Dress for Success from last week, which we talk about, has the videos on there and we talk about what to wear and things like that, then please contact your EOF counselor, because I have shared the PowerPoint with them. Mr. Jones actually did it with me, so he has it. But you can sit there and go over it with your counselor. There will be a good contact that you have with your counselor, and your counselor can share the screen and say, okay, here's the PowerPoint. Let's look at the videos together so that, you know, they can help you prepare for an interview. It's called Dress for Success. We held it last Wednesday, but it was in person, so it wasn't recorded. So we have the PowerPoint, but it's been recorded in previous semesters. Career Center holds mock interviews. So what that is they literally hold an interview, they record, and then the Career Center staff person reviews the recording with you. And they'll say you need to keep more eye contact, or you said the word too many times, or you pulled on your tie too much. So they will do like a full dress rehearsal interview. They will record you and then they'll go over it with you to help you. And we did that last semester too. When we did the mock interviews, we were able to give constructive feedback. And that's why I found that one student who had like a perfect mock interview and did a really, really good job. You can also ask your EOF counselor, hey, can you do a mock interview with me and let me know what you think? You can always do that. We're more than willing to do that with you. But the Career Center actually does it as well. You just have to schedule an appointment with them. EOF will hold an alumni panel workshop on 3/30/22 at 4 p.m. on Zoom. Make sure that you think about attending, seniors, because I'm bringing in students who have recently graduated or have been out for a couple of years, and they can talk to you about what the interviewing process was for them, especially for those who interviewed virtually. And they can tell you how difficult it was or how easy it was. But these students that are coming in are going to be able to talk to you about what the experience was for them looking for a job after graduation. Like, was it easy? Did you get the job based on your major? Or are you in a position where you need to get experience to then go for that job? You want to ask them all these questions. They will be here on March 30th, 2022 at 4 p.m. This is also on your workshop card in case you forget. And it will be on Zoom at 4 o'clock because many of these individuals are working, so we had to do the workshop in the afternoon. It will also be recorded and posted on Canvas after we're done. Okay. Any questions? I know I told you a lot. Let me stop recording.